with liberty and justice for all.
Please remain standing for a moment of silence. In these times, no matter what political affiliation you may be, events like these that have happened in Las Vegas shows us what unites us as Americans, and that it triumphs over what divides us. Let's take this moment and think of the victims and the victims' families on this massacre that took place in Las Vegas. I would also like to just remind you that as the men and women of the police departments that are our first line of defense in these cases and respond and react swiftly to horrific events throughout the country, stand by them and support them. Thank you.
Hi, Joe.
Hello.
Okay, first on the agenda, I'd like to set the dates for the upcoming meeting. So the next workshop, the November workshop, will be held Wednesday, November 1st at 7. Does anyone have an issue with that change on the board?
Yes, I will not be in town on November 1st.
You will not be in town. Joe?
No, actually, I'm returning that day, so depending on what my flight time is. 6 o'clock return. Not gonna make it.
Okay. Joe?
Works for him, he said.
Oh, he said, okay. Frank?
Maybe not, but I'll let you know when it gets close.
Moira?
I can make it.
Okay, so we'll set that date tentatively for November 1st at 7, Wednesday. The next scheduled board meeting will be Monday, November 6th at 7 p.m. Okay, it is now 7:07. I'd like to open the public hearing and amending the local law, Chapter 200 of the Code of the Village of Suffern, peddling and soliciting regarding the definition of a solicitor and adding a new section to include a list of persons not wanting to be disturbed by peddlers or solicitors. Dan, let's see.
The village has 2 local laws on the books that deal with 2 types of advertising methodologies that are used by people trying to get business from individuals in the village. One deals with advertising. That's a different chapter of the village code. Within that chapter, it contains a provision referred to elsewhere as a no-knock list. But it relates mainly to people who send things unsolicited, either magazines, advertisement in the mail, newspapers, etc. We also have a local law which deals with what's commonly referred to as peddling and soliciting, or canvassing as well. In the existing local law, it does not have a provision which relates to a no-knock list. So what I have proposed, and by no means am I taking credit for this, this was actually Ms. Hertzman's suggestion long ago, was to amend the definition of what a canvasser or solicitor is to add, for purposes of this local law, real estate brokers, sellers of energy and utility type services shall be deemed to be canvassers or solicitors. So, recently, we have been experiencing, and I don't know if they've come to your houses or not, but the sellers of energy services came en masse to the village clerk's office to apply for a peddling and solicitor's permit. She didn't have a list to tell them you can't knock on this person's door because it wasn't within the local law. So what you have before you, board members, is an amendment to the existing local law to include the real estate brokers, sellers of energy and utility type service. So that would be Verizon, Cablevision, et cetera. And within it, when this person or people come to the village to apply for their permit, they could be handed a list of addresses of people who do not want to be disturbed by their activities. And failure to comply with this would have a penalty attached to it that could be enforced. Now, as good as this sounds, it's only as good as the people who sign up for it. So we're going to try to make it, assuming that this local law is ultimately adopted, and I do have to tell you that we can't do that tonight because we have to wait for a response from the Rockland County Department of Planning before we're able to act on this. But we're going to have to come up with a methodology, probably a number of means for people to sign up for this list. It could be coming to Village Hall, it could be signing up on a dedicated link on our website, etc. And then any person who applied for either the advertisement portion of the local law or the peddler and solicitors portion of the local law would be handed this list, and if they were to violate it, they could be sanctioned by the code enforcement officer or the police department thereafter. So that's the sum and substance of the changes that are being proposed. But take any questions, because this is a public hearing, or if any of the members have any questions or comments.
Does anyone from the public here have any questions? Step up to come on up and state your name and address, please.
Beth Coppell, 30 West Maltby Avenue. I just have a single question. Does that also include religious groups?
The exception? It depends on
In that
the exception.
There are certain religious groups that tend to knock on the door frequently at unwanted times, and it's been happening quite often.
I think it would be included within the existing local law. There's a provision that says, shall include persons going from door to door or place to place for the purposes of soliciting contributions or donations for any person or organization.
Okay.
There is on page 2, the exemptions, that exempts churches, on page 2.
Okay, is that B?
I'm not, yeah, I don't want to eliminate that. Well, it's a
Yeah.
fine line. That's what I'm trying to,
Churches, organizations, Boy Scouts.
I didn't get it.
Oh.
Did you get her name? I didn't get it, neither did Joe.
Really? Because if I've actually, I'll try that next time.
You shouldn't be walking like that.
Yeah.
Let me correct myself. There is, within the exemption section of the existing local law, it states, "This chapter shall not apply to sales by any member of the Boy Scouts of America, Girl Scouts of America, or similar youth-based, village-based youth organizations, school groups, churches, fraternal organizations, a duly organized volunteer ambulance or fire company, or district, or an auxiliary thereof, or other bona fide charity who is acting on behalf of said organization, group, company, district, or corporation, where the organization shall have provided notice to the village clerk at least 5 days before the first activity on its behalf, and the dates of the activity and the name and address of the person in charge." So you could have, I don't want to belabor this, but it is a good question.
And a fine line.
And unfortunately, you know, when you deal in the law, you have to think like 50 steps ahead, and the person that you're dealing with is usually dealing 51 steps ahead. So you could have something like this. The person, or let's say it's a church group, they don't apply for the permit. They knock on the door. They could still be in violation, the way this is worded, because they still have to notify the village clerk at least 5 days before the first activity on its behalf. So you could still cite them for a violation. So they would have to know to come to the village clerk first, give the written notification, and absent that, if they knocked on a door, even though they're exempt, the exemption is not a blanket exemption. It still has certain requirements that they have to meet. Then you could have an argument, well, I don't want to come up with a firm example, but let's just say Joe's church.
XYZ.
Okay? And Joe, I'm not picking on you. Okay? Would Joe's church fall within that exemption of a church, just because Joe calls his church a church? Or would it
Bona fide.
be negated by Joe going from door to door or place to place for the purpose of soliciting contributions or donations for any person or organization? So, what I'm trying to point out is you try to cover as much as you can in a law, but there is always someone who can figure out a way around it. So right here, we're trying to fill in a gap that we know exists. And we're trying to provide for the residents to have the ability to at least lessen the likelihood of that happening. And if it does happen, that there are consequences to the violator if they engage in it. Got it? Thank you.
Thank you.
Now you're good at name. Her name,
Her name is Beth.
Beth, okay.
Quick question, no long answers. When they come in and get a, when they come in and get a permit,
That was the shortest answer I've ever given, but go ahead.
do they get an ID badge so that when they come to your door, you know that they have a permit?
I think it is in here.
Otherwise, Virginia's
No.
going to get 100 calls saying, does this guy have a permit? Does this guy have a permit? And the code enforcement, if they're riding around and they see people going up to the
They get the
door,
permit.
Okay. Registration certificate. Each registered, upon being so registered, shall be issued a registration certificate by the village clerk upon which shall be impressed the official seal of the Village of Suffern, and for the period for which certificate shall be valid, but in no event exceed 30 calendar days from the date of issuance. Display of registration certificate. Each registrant shall carry the registration certificate at all times when conducting business in the village, and shall exhibit it to any citizen or village official upon request. At the conclusion of the period which the registration certificate was issued, said registration certificate shall be returned to the village clerk.
AKA, yes.
Okay.
I'm listening.
Is there anyone else? No.
Okay, we would need a motion to continue the public hearing to Monday, November 6th at 7:05 PM.
I have a motion to continue the public hearing until Monday, November 6th at 7:05.
Motion.
I'll make.
Second.
He made, Hank did it?
Hank seconded.
He second?
Yep.
First, okay.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye, motion passes. All right, so that's for Monday. Continuation, Virginia.
Okay, Monday.
So that means there is no B.
Same time, manner?
7:05.
Okay.
Others would not authorize, would not adopt.
Okay, Mr. Magrino, Assistant Village Attorney.
Yes, good evening. I have just two items. I asked that first resolution be pulled. I had to tidy some things up with that, and I'll be presenting that
Okay.
at the next meeting. The first item for me is I'm going to request that the board set a public hearing for the purposes of amending the Village Code, Chapter 235, regarding streets and sidewalks, in particular, Section 236-6, snow removal, Article 6D, snow plowing, to clarify the definition of who needs to get a permit and under what circumstances and what vehicles that applies to. I'll get into it more when we have the public hearing, but generally speaking, it's just to make sure that commercial snow plowers and snow removers register to help with enforcement, because we want to prevent people from putting snow in the street and blocking the street and fire hydrants, things like that.
Okay. All right, so the next meeting date is November 6th, and we'll schedule the public hearing for 7:10.
There are two separate public hearings.
Right, so this is the
that's just
first
the first
public
one.
hearing for snow plowing. So that'll be at 7:10.
This one's at 7:10.
Good.
And then the other,
Motion.
Do I have a motion for the public hearing, November 6th, 7:10?
Motion.
Have a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye, motion passes. Okay,
okay, and the second item is also a request for a public hearing to amend Chapter 266 regarding off-street parking of commercial vehicles in residential districts. And again, we'll get into that more. We discussed a little bit about at the workshop. And again, the building department has requested this change, and I'll have them here for the public hearing to explain why.
Okay.
It really has to do with enforcement, so.
perfect. So we'll set that for November 6th at 7:15. Do I have a motion?
Motion.
Motion.
Second?
Second.
All in favor? Aye, motion passes. Okay.
That's it. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Magrino. Fire Department, Chief Salmon.
Good evening, everybody. I just have three new people that we need to bring up for the village insurance. One is Andriy Moskalik. Second one's going to be Joseph Russo and Brenton Myers.
Who's that guy?
Okay, do I have a motion to add the,
I don't know, I think this is more of an administrative act. I don't know that you need.
you don't need the motion?
No.
Just an ad?
Yep.
What is this?
Add the 3 to the insurance policy.
Will do.
Don't need a motion.
Great job on your car show Sunday.
It was a great
Good
time.
turnout.
Yep, beautiful day.
Yeah, beautiful day. Good job. Keep up the good work. Good? All right. Thanks, John.
All right, thank you. Have a good night.
Yeah. Okay, at this time, it's Culture and Recreation. Miss Kathy Mills, she's unavailable tonight. Hope she's feeling better. She's doing well. The last word is she is doing well. So we'll provide you with an update at a later time. Okay. Next up, Mr. Fred Rella, grant writer. It's been bringing us good news lately.
I have good news. Good evening, Board.
Good evening.
I have 4 resolutions before you tonight, and I guess the best way, sort of, it's like each resolution would sort of be an update onto itself. So the very first resolution is for us to submit the Justice Court Assistance Program grant, which is due October 12th. It's the New York Circuit Court program where you can be awarded up to $30,000. We're going to be applying for some IT equipment, some security equipment, and alike. And basically, the resolution before you says that the judge can sign off on it, and Christine Anderson, the court clerk, can submit the application itself. The resolution is part of the application.
So I have a resolution before me, authorize, a resolution approving the New York State Unified Court System 2017 Justice Court Assistance Program. Do I have a motion?
Motion.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye, motion passes.
Great. Thank you. The second resolution is for acceptance of this year's Community Development Block Grant Award of $174,000 plus. It's for the Wayne Avenue Sidewalk Project. And what this resolution states is that the Village Board is going to accept the agreement put forth by the county for these funds, and we're going to abide by the rules and regulations of it. It is HUD money. And the resolution speaks to it a little bit, and if it's approved, then the mayor can sign the CDBG agreement, and we can get it over to the county.
Okay, so I have a resolution accepting and administering the fiscal year Community Development Block Grant Subrecipient Agreement that the Village of Suffern Board of Trustees agrees to accept and administer the fiscal year 27 CDBG Subrecipient Agreement between the County of Rockland and the Village of Suffern, and Edward Markunas, as Mayor of the Village of Suffern, and is hereby authorized and directed to sign said agreement. The subrecipient agreement is for the Wayne Avenue Sidewalk Project CDBG grant in the amount of $174,720. The Village of Suffern will contribute an additional 10% of the total project awarded, thus bringing the total project cost to $192,192. Do I have a motion?
Motion.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye, motion passes. I'd just like to say that this was the second award, Fred. And the first award was in the amount of $115,000, just to make the public aware. I believe it was
110.
$110,000 with an additional 10% from the village to be added to these funds for the completion of the project. Just so that we're aware that Wayne Avenue, is being repaved by the state at a later date than anticipated. The anticipation date for the paving is possibly in the spring or fall of 18, somewhere between the spring and fall of 18, sorry guys. So within that time frame, we'll be able to engineer and get the plans for the sidewalks. You know that in certain locations along Wayne Avenue, there are no sidewalks at all. So that's an issue at hand itself. And then the completion of the whole project, we rather have the curbs and sidewalks in place than pave, instead of paving, then ripping up the curbs and sidewalks. So it's going to be a little more drawn out than initially that we expected. Just to brief you on that. Thank you. Thank you, Fred.
Okay, the third resolution of 4 is that within the past week, we were notified by the Ways and Means Committee of New York State that we were awarded a $250,000 grant for a heavy-duty truck, which I spoke about, I guess at the last meeting or the prior meeting, and that's going to be for the DPW.
Yes.
So that's a resolution stating that the village is going to be accepting this grant award.
Okay, so I have the resolution accepting the New York State Assembly State and Municipal Facilities Program Grant. Resolved that the Village of Suffern Board of Trustees accepts the New York State Assembly State and Municipal Facilities Programs Grant awarded in an amount of $250,000 for the purchase of a heavy-duty truck for the Village Department of Public Works. Do I have a motion?
Motion.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Any discussion? Anyone would like to say anything about the truck? Thank you. There you go. We're working to keep the DPW strong. You want to come up and say a couple of words about the multi-body truck? So the audience will... I'm sorry, what is that? I can't hear you.
Which assembly one?
New York, Alan Jaffe's office. You're welcome.
This truck will replace 5 trucks, actually. It's got a multi-use body. We're going to have 5 bodies coming with it. It's going to assist us with sewer plant activities, mowing, hauling blacktop, removing snow, but it's only 1 truck. With that said, I mean, I'm excited just to put it together and get it. So that way I know next year it's going to be a lot easier for me and my men to continue to service this village with this new toy.
Nice. Thank you. And it's great that we're able to take advantage of these programs and receive the funding. You know, it relieves us of the tax burden on the taxpayer, and you know, we're able to work closely with Fred and the Assembly of New York State. Thank you, Fred.
I have one more resolution, the 4th and final one, and that is to accept the $7,000 grant award from the New York State Division of Criminal Justice Services for the DARE program. In speaking with Chief Osborne, it looks like one of the items that we're going to be utilizing a portion of that $7,000 is to resurface the DARE rink, which will be...
Okay, I have the resolution in front of me accepting the New York State Division of Criminal Justice Services Grant Award for the Village of Suffern DARE program. Do I have a motion?
Motion.
Have a second?
Second.
Any discussion? Chief Osborne? How good is this grant for the DARE program? Beautiful.
We service about women, and I want to thank Senator Jaffe for every year does give money to our DARE program.
Right, great. Thank you. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye, motion passes. Thank you, Fred. Great job.
We want Fred.
Fred's getting a good report card.
Straight A's.
Chief Osborne with a police update, please.
Thank you, Mayor. Thank you for that. Just have a very brief update. A couple things. First of all, in regards to police calls and blotters, for the month of September, we had 529 police calls.
Audience participation.
September,
Okay.
all of our officers are in firearms training last week and this week on our patrol rifles, shotguns, and our handguns. We get certified, qualified. Fortunately, we have our own range instructors. We have Detective Sergeant Rick Marsh and Officer Jeff DeLuca. We train our own officers at the county range. And on a good note, last week we apprehended, as good work by officers. We had a suspect we charged with a fugitive from justice, on top of the other arrests, many arrests we had last month. But this one stood out because he was a fugitive from justice out of Bergen County, out of Mahwah, and he was a suspect and wanted there for numerous car break-ins in the town of Mahwah. And he was on Riverside Drive, and our officers apprehended him, took him into custody, sent him to the county jail as a fugitive from justice, and Bergen County authorities came up and grabbed him. So they did a good job in that, because we are very fortunate and blessed. The areas around us have been getting blasted with car larcenies all around us. Unfortunately, we haven't had it. I'm not saying hopefully it's for the proactive policing, I say, but it can happen anywhere, but we haven't had it. We've been very fortunate. And I attribute that to the officers out there, so. And that's really it. It was a very quick update, but I want to thank you guys for accepting the grant, and Fred for getting that grant. Challenge Japanese office gives us money every year just for there, and the resurfacing of the rink is critical. The amount of kids we have playing that street hockey league, hundreds of kids, it's going to help us a lot. So I want to thank you guys, and Fred, thank you.
Thank you. And speaking of Dare and the hockey rink, I believe I failed to mention that I believe the Dare hockey rink is celebrating 20 years.
Our league is celebrating 20 years. Our rink is 15 now.
Right. So the league is celebrating 20 years. And I believe, Chief, you started it with a handful of individuals. Yep. Thank you. That's continued success. You guys, it's phenomenal over 20 years. I know my kids went through it.
I'm a product of it.
Yeah, it was good. You're a victim of it?
I'm a product.
Oh, I thought you said a victim.
Joe's a product. I was going to say that's a play.
We went to the All-Star game in Mawa. We got our butts kicked, but we went to the All-Star game.
It's funny. We started, it's interesting, we got our information to start the league from the Mawa PD. Their league was massive. We had I was trying to get 40 kids. I got 7 in the first year at the community center. And the first 3 years, Joe was involved, he knows, Mawa tuned us up pretty good. But then the next 3 or 4, we tuned them up real bad. Then they stopped playing. So.
Oh, yeah.
So thank you for everything, really. It's an honor. It's a great league, and a lot of kids play this league, and a lot of kids love the league. So thank you.
I also want to mention that I do receive numerous calls in regards to the Suffern Police Department. One sticks out in mind that 2 members of the community really praised Sergeant Jim Giannatino on his recent encounter with, I guess, a disorderly. I don't want to classify it as anything other than maybe a disorderly or a drunk or something along those lines, but they highly praised him for his actions out there on Lafayette.
Good. Okay, good. Thank you. We appreciate it, and guys doing a great job, and thank you very much. I do appreciate it.
All right. Thank you, Chief.
Okay, thank you.
All right, at this time, I'd like to open up the floor to audience participation. So anyone from the audience that would like to come up and speak, step up to the microphone, state your name and your address, please.
Joe Maraglino, 65 Wayne Avenue. Joe Russo, as far as the light at the corner of Lafayette Avenue and Washington Avenue, did you hear anything about our friends in the DOT willing to help us?
I actually have some good news. I was going to bring it up later on in the meeting. I spoke with the director up in Albany, and a traffic study was conducted. The consultant that did the study found that split phasing for north and southbound Washington Avenue as they approach Lafayette Avenue would be necessary. And also during the traffic study, they identified making the left-hand turn southbound from Lafayette onto Washington on the right side of the monument. There's 2 stop lines there. There's one that's at the actual light and one after you move up to the intersection. There's no way to let motorists know that the light has changed from green to red. So they're going to also put its own green arrow. So this is all going to be part of the 59 corridor project, which is a capital project. It's going out to bid with the contractors, and they should be implementing this in the spring of 2018. I'm trying to get the split phasing or delayed green completed before then. But this is a win in the win column, I think. So that's where we're at.
Thank you. It's good to hear that we won something.
Yeah.
Chief Osborne, I have a question for you now. I'll try to go 2 for 2, but I don't know if it's going to work. How about the speed limit sign that lights up over in Wayne?
There was coordinated change stands, and they wanted so much detailed engineering information. It's virtually for science. I'm out of study back. Because only I've never done anything that involved with a speed sign. They basically told us that we can put everything in, but we don't really put stuff up on state roads unless it's for us. I think they can start us still, because we didn't have a conversation with them, but we said that the municipality is going to hit every area. I think that's the thing I put down. Like, and put up for second.
Okay, thank you all for your time, and thanks a lot for everybody, the grant writers, you guys up there on the board. I mean, everything's been really well produced, and everything's going to be done. I know it takes time.
Takes time, Joe.
But thank you very much, every one of you.
Thank you.
It's fantastic
Thank
working with you.
Okay.
Really good to hear.
Is there anyone else from the audience that would like to speak? Is he coming in?
Yeah, man.
Oh, yeah.
Good evening. Tim McInerney, 8 Pavilion Road, Suffern. We had a little bit of a problem with a couple of drains up on Pavilion Road. The village was notified, and Friday, crew showed up, saw cutted it, put it in, gravelled it. Today they came in and they blacktopped the whole thing so that it's smooth, and they did 3 of the big ruts up on the top of the hill. So they really did a really great job. I just figured, you know, we put the complaint in to let them know, so it actually got acted on and everybody came in. And that one drain that was by the pump house was so bad that if the school bus actually hit it, it would have dropped back in.
Right.
So all of that was taken care of. So I just wanted to note to the DPW that they did a heck of a job.
Thank you, Mr. McEnany. I was up there, I took a look at it, looks good. Great job, DPW's, Joe. Yeah, there it is. Good job, Joe. As always.
Hello, I'm Eva Nordhauser, 116 Bonaire Circle West. And this is really just a question. I believe the village is in charge of the center entryway coming into Bonaire, but within the last year, the 2 stone gates at the entrance, one of them was knocked down by a vehicle and finally got cleared away, but the other one by the park is crumbling and looks terrible, and I'm really asking who's responsible for that. Is it the village or, you know, simply a question?
But so the first concern, I believe, is the one that you spoke about in regards to the car accident and the car hitting it and being demolished?
That's been cleaned up.
Okay. So that was sort of in dispute depending on where it was in the right-of-way and whose responsibility it is. I believe we filed, the insurance claim has been filed, and we've received 3 different price quotes to make the repairs to the one that was demolished. And now the second one, you're saying is in disrepair or in need of repair?
Terrible disrepair. Some part of the sign has fallen off, some of the bricks are out. I don't know if someone pulled them out, but it's sort of slummy,
Seems to be like
slummy looking.
Okay. We'll take a look at it. It's definitely a unique situation because it's in the right-of-way, and it has Bonaire's name on it. So we will continue to explore who's responsible for it.
Right. Okay, thank you.
You gave it to Bonaire? Okay. Thank you.
They're looking into it.
Okay.
Hi, Paul. Excuse me, Paul Gerard, 2 Cross Street. Just a clarifying question. First of all, I applaud Mr. Reller for getting these grants for the curbside project and the others. But regarding the curbside project, I see that there's a request for an RFP on the agenda. But do we have a rough idea, based on our experience with the Orange Avenue, how much square footage of sidewalk or distance of sidewalk that this grant plus the 10% is going to cover in comparison to how much sidewalk we
The linear footage of sidewalk and on Wayne Avenue, what that's required, and how much that grant money will cover? Correct. I don't have those specific details right now, no, but Mr. Zawicki would have the details on the linear footage that's needed.
Okay. The nature of my question is, I know that with Orange Avenue, we knew it would only cover a certain length.
Right.
And then there was a, I guess, quote-unquote, emergency funding to cover the rest of it. And I was just suggesting that based on our experience with that project, if we can learn whether or not additional funding is going to be required, that we bring it up at a hearing as opposed to declaring some emergency and then just spending the money.
Gotcha.
Okay, Mr. Gerard, just to be clear, I think perhaps we did learn from that experience, because the purpose of this RFP is to get engineering services to determine exactly what needs to be done and use that to figure out how much it'll actually cost. So that's really all that's being done with regard to the Wayne Avenue curb project. And then Fred Rella behind you will probably speak to additional funding potentials.
Yeah, we did calculate the actual linear feet, but I don't remember that number offhand, but to give you the visualization, it's from where Wayne Avenue meets Orange Avenue, okay, on the north side, okay, all the way going towards the pool area, towards Lake Antrim, to the underpass. Okay, so it covers the entire length of that sidewalk. Right, basically Washington Avenue. And the estimated cost was $325,000. And we have $284,000 in grant money, plus we were going to contribute 10%, which they want us to contribute so much money, which brings us to $312, and the remaining funding to the $325 would be CHIPS money, which would be approximately $13,000 at this point in time.
Sounds great. Okay. Thank you, that's all I had.
Thank you.
Thank you. Is there anyone else that would like to speak? Nope. Okay. This time I would like to close public participation. Thank you. Ms. Menschner with the village clerk.
All I have is one resolution, Mayor, that you can read.
Okay, I have a resolution here authorizing American Needs Fatima Rosary Rally to be held October 14, 2017 at the Virginia Menschner Gazebo. Resolved that the mayor of the Village of Suffern Board of Trustees authorizes the American Needs for Fatima Rosary Rally to be held on October 14th, 2017 at the Virginia Menschner Gazebo from noon until 3 p.m. Do I have a motion?
Motion.
Have a second?
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye, motion passes.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Okay, up next is the Department of Public Works. Mr. Zawicki is not with us this evening. We will review the resolutions in front of me. Let's see what we have here. I have the resolution authorizing an engineering service request for proposals for the Community Development Block Grant Wayne Avenue Sidewalk Projects. Do I have a motion?
Motion.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Motion passes.
Yeah, I saw that. Let's look at a calendar.
No, I just have one, he's checking on something.
Well, Veterans Day is the 10th, so we can make it the 9th. November 9th.
Yeah, but this is November 20th.
I know.
I'm confused.
We're going to make it earlier.
When should we make it?
November 9th.
Why that much earlier?
The 20th
How's
is a
that
Monday.
date holding up?
So we can do the 17th. Still good?
Okay. Do you have your resolutions?
I have it, there's a conflict.
Okay.
There's a conflict with the date. There's no conflict with the date, it's just far out.
Change it.
Yeah.
Make it a week earlier, 13th.
Okay, I have a resolution authorizing an engineering service request for proposal for wastewater treatment plant, copper and zinc investigative report. The village board hereby authorizes Charles Sawicki to send out an engineering service request for proposal for a wastewater treatment plant, copper and zinc investigative report. The engineering service RFP will be due at the end of business on November 13th, 2017. Do I have a motion?
Motion.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye, motion passes. I have a resolution here authorizing Bill Barish to attend the CSEA Work Zone All Hazards Train the Trainer program on October 24th through 27th. Whereas CSEA is offering Work Zone All Hazard Train the Trainer program to train program participants to deliver a comprehensive site-specific one-day course to their co-workers. This course will be held October 24th through 27, 2017 at Saratoga State Park, Saratoga Springs, New York, and will be provided by the CSEA at no cost to the participant. Now be it resolved that the Village of Suffern Board of Trustees hereby authorizes Bill Barish to attend the Work Zone Hazard Train the Trainer course October 24th to 27th. Reimbursement for expenses including meals, tolls, and gas will be provided to the attendee upon submission to the village clerk of a voucher with supporting documentation. Do I have a motion?
Motion.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Any discussion? Yes.
CSA pays all expenses to and from the meals. The village has no expense here. When it comes to training, you said the village will.
Correct. So on Train the Trainer, it's all on the union? On the CSEA? We have to rewrite the resolution?
Okay, as amended, redact that,
Hold on a second.
Whoops. Hold on, Joe, please. Thank you. Okay.
okay, so that now therefore paragraph should read, based on the statements of Mr. Hunt, that the Village of Suffern Board of Trustees hereby authorizes Bill Barish to attend the Work Zone All Hazards Train the Trainer program October 24th through 27th in Saratoga Springs, New York, period. The balance of that paragraph to be removed.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye, motion passes. Thank you, Joe.
Always looking to save the village money.
Always looking out for the village, Joe.
Got another resolution.
I'm in the wrong page, yeah. A resolution here authorizing the purchase order for professional services for the capacity assurance plan. Plan Phase 2 by H2M Architects and Engineers. The low bid in the amount of $47,850 from H2M Architects and Engineers, 2 Executive Boulevard. Board of Trustees accepts the quotation from H2M Architects and Engineers for professional services for the Capacity Assurance Plant Phase 2 project subject to the procurement and receipt of bonding money and all required documentations reviewed by the same by the village attorney. And be further resolved, the Director of Public Works is authorized to sign the purchase order on behalf of the Village of Suffern, should the Village of Suffern obtain financing for the project. This one is the phase 2. What is the phase 2 one?
Relates to the DEC consent order.
Do I have a motion?
Motion.
Do I have a second?
Second.
All right, jumped on that one. All in favor? Aye. Motion passes.
I like
Now, let's see. Next, I have in front of me the resolution authorizing the purchase order for the South Street Pump Station Emergency Generator Replacement Plan Professional Services by KC Engineering and Land Surveying, PC. Board of Trustees accepts the, whereas the low bid is in the amount of $21,310. It's a typo. From KC Engineering and Land Surveying, 302, Circleville, New York. Now therefore be resolved, the Board of Trustees accepts the quotation from KC Engineering and Land Surveying for professional services for South Street Pump Station Emergency Generator Replacement Plan, subject to the procurement and receipt of bonding money and all required documents and reviewed of the same by the village attorney. Do I have a motion?
Motion.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Any discussion?
I believe that this firm is an MB qualified firm, by the way.
Yes.
MWEP.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye, motion passes. Okay. I have a letter here from Mr. Charles Zawicki, the Director of Public Works, to all village residents. During the week of September 18, 2017, the Water Department conducted fire hydrant flushing activities. Some residents were not aware of that this hydrant flushing activity would be taking place. Apologies to any residents inconvenienced by these hydrant flushing activities. In the future, an increased effort will be made to notify all residents impacted by hydrant flushing. Charles W. Zawicki, Director of Public Works. The applications for payment.
And the village treasurer.
We did the training, we don't have the applications for payment.
This. Is this anything?
I'll pass them down.
Where's that?
I don't think we can make these applications without more.
Yeah.
No. No. Okay, we're going to table the applications for payments for this meeting. We need some more clarity on them. Pass that down. Okay, up to the Finance Department. Mr. Janito is unable to be here tonight. Okay, a resolution authorizing the village treasurer to make necessary fiscal year-end budget amendments. Whereas the village treasurer is responsible for the orderly recording of all finances associated with the operation of the village, and whereas certain budget amendments may be necessary as determined by the village treasurer, the independent auditors for the village, or the Office of State Controller to close the financial record for fiscal year-end May 31st, 2017. Now therefore be it resolved that the village treasurer is hereby authorized to make all necessary amendments to the budget for the fiscal year end, May 31, 2017. Be it further resolved that the village treasurer shall report any such budget amendments to the village board upon completion of the audit for fiscal year end, May 31, 2017, by the independent auditors for the village. May I have a motion?
Motion.
May I have a second?
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Motion passes. Have a resolution adopting the State of New York compensation plan.
Deferred. Should be deferred, though.
Should be deferred.
It says New York State Deferred Compensation. Doesn't yours say that?
Not on the resolution.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Whereas the Village of Suffern desires to adopt a deferred compensation plan for employees of the State of New York and other participating public jurisdictions, the plan for the voluntary participation of all eligible employees, and whereas the Village of Suffern is a local public employer eligible to adopt the plan pursuant to Section 5 of the state finance law, and whereas the Village of Suffern has reviewed the plan established in accordance with the Section 457 of the Internal Revenue Code, Section 5 of the state finance law of the State of New York, and whereas the purpose of the plan is to encourage employees to make and continue careers with the Village of Suffern by providing eligible employees with convenient and tax-favored method of savings on a regular and long-term basis, and thereby provide for their retirement. Now therefore be it resolved that the Village of Suffern hereby adopts the plan for voluntary participation of all eligible employees. And be it further resolved that the appropriate officials of the Village of Suffern are hereby authorized to take such actions and enter such agreements as are required or necessary for the adoption, implementation, and maintenance of the plan. And be it further resolved that the Administrative Service Agency is hereby authorized to file copies of these resolutions and other required documents with the President of the State of New York Civil Service Commission. Adopted the second day of October 2017 at a meeting of the Village of Suffern Board of Trustees. Do I have a motion?
Motion.
Do I have a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye, motion passes.
Well, on that topic,
Sorry, go ahead.
As a longtime member of and contributor to the New York State Deferred Compensation Plan, and having recently retired this year, I urge and suggest to all village employees to contribute to this plan. It's only to your benefit, and I can't suggest joining and participating at whatever level you can more highly. And that's really what I have to say about it. It's a wonderful plan, and when you reach a certain stage, it all comes back to you in spades.
I too contributed for 20 years as a retiree of the civil service system. There.
But
No, 20 years of contributing to, in addition to your pension, is well worth it. So if you're in civil servant, you should definitely contribute.
Can I say something to you? All these things, tell them that we were not aware that they
30
weren't
years.
going to be here tonight. That's why we can't speak on us with the same thing here.
I know.
Yeah, but just tell the public, I think that it's my fault that it's on the agenda for us.
Okay, so I just want to clarify a few items here from the Department of Public Works that we did not speak about, and also the Finance Department. So it was a late notice in regards to the department heads not being here and being to clarify each and every item on the agenda.
That's right. I didn't know.
Okay, let's see.
Okay. Read the resolutions.
You got me confused here.
I'm sorry.
Next is technology.
The technology update that Mr. Janito was going to give was in regards to our Village of Suffern website being down. It seems to be a severe problem with the server, I believe. I'm not really a techie, but we're working on all means necessary to recover the information, and at the same time, we're working on developing a new website and alternatives for communicating to the village in regards to any activities, construction, incidents. So we are diligently working on that. What else do you have?
3 resolutions with that regard.
Hold on, I have them here.
Okay.
Let me see which one is which. Okay, I have a resolution authorizing the mayor to enter into a professional service agreement with Emergent Solutions LLC for technology support and services. Whereas the Village of Suffern utilizes a variety of computer, telecommunications, and other technology resources, the Village Board desires to engage the services of a technology expert to assist the village treasurer in the planning and administrative of high-level technology resource. And whereas Emerging Solutions LLC, located at 555 Fifth Avenue, 14th floor, is a technology support company offering the service of technology consultants at a rate of $150 per hour during normal village business hours and $165 per hour for services rendered outside of normal village business hours. Now therefore be it resolved that the mayor is hereby authorized to execute on behalf of the village a professional service agreement with Emerging Solutions LLC for technology support services at the rate of $150 during normal business hours and $165 outside normal business hours. Do I have a motion?
Motion.
I have a second?
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor? Aye, motion passes. I have a resolution authorizing the village treasurer to purchase web hosting services from Network Solutions. The Village of Suffern currently pays $600 per year for the hosting of its website, and whereas the annual cost of web hosting does not currently include additional costs for website support, and whereas the annual cost for web hosting does not include basic email boxes, which the village pays to the current web hosting company at the rate of $8,208 per year for said email. And whereas the village website is currently offline and the company hosting the village's website has determined that it would not be cost-effective to repair the village website. And whereas the domain name is registered with and hosted by Network Solutions, a major web hosting company located at 12808 Grand Bay Parkway, West Jacksonville, Florida. And whereas Network Solutions offers a 5-year web hosting plan that exceeds the features offered by the current web hosting company, including 24/7 support and up to 2,500 basic email boxes at the cost of $133.98 per year, for a total cost of $669.90. Now therefore be it resolved that the village treasurer is hereby authorized to purchase a 5-year web hosting plan from Network Solutions at the total cost of $669.90. Do I have a motion?
Motion.
Have a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye, motion passes. As you can see, we are diligently working on correcting this problem.
That's about a $7,500
How much is it?
savings.
7,500 or 11?
8138 is what I came up with.
Yeah, 8208 plus another 3,000 and minus the 669.
So it's roughly $11,000 savings. Thank you, Mr. Janito.
Got one more resolution.
Let me see what this, this is for website development. Okay, so I have another resolution here authorizing the mayor to enter into a professional service agreement with GDL Productions for website development. Whereas the Village of Suffern website is currently offline due to technical difficulties, and whereas the company that currently hosts the village's website has determined that repairs to the village website would not be cost effective, and whereas the village desires to update its website to meet or exceed current website technology standards, now therefore be it resolved that the mayor is hereby authorized to execute on behalf of the Village of Suffern a professional service agreement with GDL Production, 162 Fairview Park, Mountaintop, Pennsylvania, for website development and implementation services at a rate of $100 per web page. May I have a motion?
Make sure you write small.
Motion.
It's only up to 10-point font.
There was a motion by Moira.
Motion by Moira, seconded by
Second.
Mr. Hagen.
Okay.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye, motion passes.
Village attorney.
Okay, Mr. Kraushaar.
Okay, I'm in receipt of a letter from New York State MTA. Since 1999, we've had a license agreement with the MTA for the use and occupancy of
Job well done.
Of course, it's not mentioned. Well. Well, it's by the train tracks. That I can tell you. And the original license agreement, going back to 1999, expired in 2015, and it was with the Suffern Parking Authority, which no longer exists. So they have agreed to extend that arrangement, but with the Village of Suffern, who took over for the Suffern Parking Authority, but on a month-to-month basis. Even though the prior agreements had a termination clause, regardless of the fact that it was for a longer period of time, I would like to see, I think we need to approve this, send it back to them, but I would like to also deal with the MTA on trying to reach an agreement on a longer term than just month to month. But for now, a resolution authorizing us to extend that agreement with the MTA on a month-to-month basis would be in order.
So this is use of the D lot. D? Yeah.
Doesn't say it in the agreement. But
No, the H lot, I'm sorry, not the D lot. Hallett.
Hallett.
Yeah, Wayne Avenue and Chestnut. Okay, do I have a motion on a resolution authorizing the mayor to sign the MTA license renewal agreement?
Motion.
Have a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Motion passes. That comes with-
It's like
a
$1 a year, and we
provision they
actually
use.
turn it around and make a profit by entering into an agreement with the county to locate their buses on that lot as well. So the county actually pays us money. All right, but just keep it among us, ourselves.
Trustees. Are you done? I'm sorry.
Yeah.
Mayor, here's a question. Ed,
Yes.
there was one more item in Mike's section, the parking permits from Global to
Oh.
Global.
I don't think we have that.
Yeah, it's not in the packet.
He was just gonna give an update on it.
That was going to be an update.
That was an update. He's still working on the contract with Park Mobile and moving Park Mobile from Global to be their merchant of record. which would be the credit card processing company for parking permits. So the contract has been reviewed by Dan and was reviewed by their attorneys, and now we're looking at it one more time.
So that's for our cashless parking and the parking paid by phone.
Oh, I know what it is.
Oh, okay.
but we were just missing the resolution, so.
Okay.
I guess it's just not ready yet.
It's not ready, it was just an update.
Okay.
Okay. Okay, so I'm going to give you a quick update. I want to thank all the residents who came out and supported our hurricane relief efforts for Puerto Rico. It was a huge success thanks to Officer Lou Venturini and Chief Osborne, myself, the village board, and also Mr. Randy Ortiz played a large part in getting the relief efforts up and running. So thank you very much. I have a resolution here in front of me accepting the retirement letter of Mr. David Clifford. Mr. David Clifford's letter, I am informing you that I am retiring from the Village of Suffern, DPW, as a motor equipment operator 2 for over 25 years of service, effective date 9/29/17. Mr. David Clifford. Do I have a motion?
Motion.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye, motion passes. Congratulations, Mr. Clifford.
Enjoy your retirement.
I have another resolution in front of me authorizing the mayor to appoint Danielle Curtin to the permanent position of receptionist typist in the Department of Public Works. Whereas Resolution 80 of 2016, adopted November 9, 2016, authorized the mayor to appoint Danielle Curtin to provisional to the position of receptionist typist in the Department of Public Works. Whereas Ms. Curtin's permanent appointment was pending the Rockland County Department of Personnel scheduling the civil service examination for the title of receptionist typist and Ms. Curtin passing of said examination. And whereas the Rockland County Department of Personnel established list number 17060 from the results of civil service examination for title receptionist typist, Ms. Curtin scoring among the top 3 eligible candidates for appointment. And whereas the Rockland County Department of Personnel notified the Village of Suffern on September 1st, 2017, Ms. Curtin's permanent status was approved. Now therefore be it resolved, the Board of Trustees authorize the mayor to hereby appoint Danielle Curtin to the permanent position of receptionist typist in the Department of Public Works at the current rate of compensation. Do I have a motion?
Motion.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. I just want to say a few words. Ms. Curtin's been here for many years as a part-time employee and is an excellent worker and a great asset to the village and to the DPW. So, great job, Danielle. Thank you. I have a resolution establishing the position of clerk typist full-time in the Justice Court. Whereas the Village of Suffern has a competitive class position of clerk typist, and whereas the Commissioner of Rockland County Personnel approved the additional position of clerk typist full-time for the Village of Suffern effective March 24th, 2017. And now therefore be resolved, the Board of Trustees hereby establishes the position of clerk typist full-time effective October 2nd, 2017. Do I have a motion?
Motion.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor? Aye. Motion passes. I have a resolution establishing the position of maintenance helper for the water department. Village of Suffern has a non-competitive class position of maintenance helper and whereas the Deputy Commissioner of Rockland County Personnel approved the additional position of maintenance helper for the Village of Suffern effective July 21st, 2017. And now for be it resolved, the Board of Trustees hereby establishes the position of maintenance helper effective October 2nd, 2017. Do I have a motion?
Motion.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Have any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye, motion passes. Getting tired of reading.
You went to the deputy, man.
I have a resolution authorizing Villa Roma Productions LLC to conduct film activities in the Suffern Business District through November 15th, 2017. Do I have a motion?
Motion.
Do I have a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye, motion passes. Excellent job on the filming with the last couple of weeks. Did a great job. Okay. So I have a letter here from Kate Delaney, the location manager and assistant to Martin Scorsese in regards to the same. Dear Mayor and Amy, sorry to have not written sooner. I wanted the time to formulate how truly grateful I am to you both, personally and professionally, and to thank the members of the Village of Suffern team. This is a big week for everyone on this production. There is so much buzz and so much riding on this job for everyone involved. The stakes are very high, and yesterday was a large learning curve for our production. The blessing was that the location was never the issue. Suffering was a dream. The village clerk's office, Virginia, Chief Osborne and his staff, Joe Hunt and his staff, the building department, and the recreation department have gone above and beyond for us. I've worked with local film liaisons. I worked with local film liaisons.
I think she meant to say I've worked with more local film liaisons than I can count.
And I have never worked with anyone as focused, committed, and level-headed, organized. Amy and the village staff who work so closely together are so wonderfully organized despite our numerous revised requests and day of changes. They were a challenge for me to keep up with, but you rolled with it. Silly production pun. Thank you. I don't know, that's what it says. Mayor, I have worked with many top officials all over the state of New York. Your steadfast composure, genuine care, and knowledge of your community is unsurpassed. It is really heartening to see and be part of the closeness of your village at a time when our country feels a little fractured. I know there is hope for the country when the community can come together for an out-of-the-ordinary experience like this and thrive. Now that we have our first week of production under our belt, now that we know what our actual footprint is and needs are, I have many ideas on how to make the next shoot even more successful. Amy and I spoke today, and I am submitting a revised game plan for the October shoot by the end of next week for your review. We are very serious about honoring our commitment to Suffern and want to be the production that is respectful to the community, that is giving us and leave to work and shoot there. Okay. Again, many thanks to and much respect for all. Have a wonderful, well-earned weekend. Very truly, Kate. So Kate is the production manager. It sounds like she enjoyed her stay here in the village and she's coming back for more. So Amy, thank you, did a great job. Everybody involved did a great job in putting up with the filming in the village. It was well worth it.
Thanks, Amy.
Thanks, Amy. Thanks, Virginia.
Thanks, everybody.
You finished?
I don't know. I didn't find it. Amy was
Sure.
I don't know what to do.
That's it.
All right, are we good?
Good. New Jersey rail lot underpass.
I'm sorry, what is that?
Item G.
Did I miss something?
Be under mayor.
Hold on.
New Jersey rail lot.
Here, be under mayor.
Oh, okay, I'm sorry. So the update on the rail lot and the underpass improvements is, we've been in contact with NJT and Metro North Railroad in regards to the responsibilities and the roles of who is responsible for the wall, who's responsible for the lot. We will be convening a meeting within the next week or two in regards. We also had Miss Gina Eintrone from NJT clean up had NJT clean up the rail along Orange Avenue. We've been in close contact with them over the past couple of weeks trying to get that mess straightened out underneath the bridge. All right. Is anybody here from the DPW? They did fix it or not? Yeah, well, they took, what happened there was that they had
I'm sorry.
I called it a pigeon roost under there, where that big wood structure was. I don't know what purpose it served, and the pigeons would all sit on there. But they removed that, and when they removed it, I believe they disconnected those two lights that are out, and they've been notified, and they indicated to us that it was ours because the wires went back to our power panel, and I believe the DPW did repair it. I'll have to check on that. Okay, you're welcome. Motion to adjourn.
Motion.
Second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Motion passes. Thank you. Thank you for coming out this evening.